Answer right. Well, the teacher's getting exasperated because this little Japanese boy is the only one participating. Everybody else is just kind of sitting there like a bump on the log. And she finally says, "People, you should be ashamed of yourselves. This little Japanese boy, barely 6 years old, he has all the answers, and you don't even raise your hands. You should be ashamed of yourself." And man from the back of the group says, "Screw the Jap." And she says, "Who said that?" And little Japanese boy said, "Douglas MacArthur."
Okay.
All right.
On that, I'll stop.
So that's Reverend Dave's input for the night.
Oh, he's bound to have more than that. I mean,
Oh, he does. He does. We try not to get him started and wound up too good, you know. Oh man.
Trying to take his box away from him.
So how's everyone doing tonight? Anything exciting, interesting going on?
Yeah, I found out one thing that I was discussing with you last week, and I found out that Sirius XM does not have a motivational radio station whatsoever.
Okay.
How about that?
Well, I guess we
So
won't
that
look for one
started
there.
me down another.
Go ahead.
That started me down another road with some ideas that I've been tossing around in my head. I finally did find out where I can, latch on to certain motivational speakers, and of course, I had to find the one that I knew, so I started with Les Brown.
Yeah.
I know him. I've heard him. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like
he
him.
is. I've heard a lot of his stuff.
And then I ran across one I didn't know. I guess his name is Garrison Wayne. Never heard of him, but I liked what he had to say. He's pretty good as well.
Not familiar with
So
him.
So I'm just kind of tinkering with the motivational idea and tinkering with another idea that I might. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I'm tinkering with it.
You're tinkering with it, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Because, I don't know. I guess I think with the internet and everything, I think we're missing out on having access to all the motivational speakers there are, and there's thousands of them. And
Oh yeah.
the motivational speaker has that ability. If you take 30 minutes out of your day, or even an hour at the most, and listen to some of these people, they kind of uplift you and give you somewhat of a direction, or they'll enlighten you to such a degree that you'll get your own concept of where you need to go, because they just open up the channels in your brain, so to speak. So,
Reverend Dave.
Yeah.
Since Robert's opened the subject, share with us what Mr. Ziegler says about motivation and taking a bath.
Well, motivation is like this. It doesn't last. But then neither does bathing. We encourage to do both every day.
absolutely. But the problem is that we just don't have access to the motivational speakers that I think we should be able to have access to. And so, like I said, I'm tinkering with that idea.
Have you searched on YouTube?
Yes, I have.
If you do search on YouTube, you can find just about any motivational speaker you want, and usually find where somebody's recorded it and put a video up or something like that. I find lots of them there.
Well, that's why I said I went to YouTube, and of course, obviously, like I said, I looked up Les Brown, and there again, he had in the YouTube area, I think about 11 or 12 different speeches that he's done. About two or three of them I've actually heard. So I was kind of tickled there because I can listen to several that I haven't heard.
If you go to the winningteam.info, there's that that website. Right on the front page, it opens up automatically. It's one of Les Brown's speeches video that I like a whole lot.
Ah. Well, yeah, you know. Like I said, I'm just tinkering with it, and I don't know where I'm going to go with it, but I'm just tinkering with some ideas. Kind of hard to specify anything because I'm not even sure myself what I'm tinkering with.
But I'm sure you're gonna keep us informed and let us know as you progress, sir.
Absolutely, I will do that. I think part of it was I was watching another. I would call it a motivational, but it was more. How should I say, educational than motivational, because it dealt with technology, and I guess that's why I was tinkering with the idea, because this gentleman, and I don't know which one it was. I think it was a guy by the name of John. No, not John Gordon. Brian David Johnson was his name, and he was talking about technology and how fast it's advancing, and where we might be in the next 10 to 15 years, in hospitals and training and all kinds of different things. And in that speech, he says you've got to open up your mind to possibilities. And when he said open up your mind to possibilities, sometimes you open your mind to possibilities. Well, in the world of technology, that kind of puts a screw to my brain because I'm not very technological. But if you're going to follow that trend, then you're going to have to be more adverse to technology, because they're doing some things that just, I don't know, they just blow your mind.
It's unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. I just saw a spot where this girl had a deformed esophagus I don't know, artery, where as her heart grew, it actually was choking her blood supply down, and they actually took a 3D computer and built the part that they needed and replaced it with that. And I said, "You got to be kidding me!"
Yep.
That stuff is just so amazing. How in the world can you take a machine and build a? It just blows my mind, and I'm just too old. I go, you can't do that, but they're doing it. And that's probably a simplistic thing. There's probably a jillion. I had a guy tell me some years ago, and to my knowledge, it hadn't happened, that they're going to be able to take the best heart surgeon in the world, and you're in Timbuktu and you've got the same heart problem, and he can actually walk an ordinary surgeon through the process, through a exchange of some kind of craziness, and this guy can perform the most difficult surgery there is by the other guy's basically hands are guiding his hands, which is, God, come on. It's unbelievable. Now, I don't know that they've got that done yet, but he was telling me that they thought that technology was in the process.
Don't doubt it.
Yeah, they were talking about the one that I was watching about. You're talking about the replacement that they made with the
3D.
What do you call it?
3D computer.
Yeah, 3D computer, and they can do that on a fax machine as well. But this guy was talking about, in reference to what you just said, he said within less than 5 years, they will be able to take a sample of your blood because they have your DNA. They can virtually take almost any part in your body that you need, and with that DNA from your blood and all the other uh, information that they need, they can build that heart, lung, liver, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and print it out, through that 3D stuff, put it in you, and it's going to work better than anything you could get anywhere else in the world. Because it'll basically be yours. Yeah, it's,
Well, 3D printers are a real thing. They are realistic. They can create just about anything they want.
I saw a thing the other day where they said they could actually build a house with it, which I went, how big is a printer? I mean, I can't. But they said that they can just put this stuff and it
Build
just
parts.
builds a house, which just blew my mind.
I was watching NCIS. It's one of my favorite programs to waste time watching, and they actually had one of their criminals was using a 3D printer to printed a gun that, of course, it was all plastic, but it worked. And he was able to go through the airport and security and stuff like that undetected with it. But it was printed on a 3D printer that anybody could do.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually saw them do this. They printed an AK-47. They said that it cost $2,800 or something to do it, but which was more expensive than you can buy one. But they said you can actually do it, which speaking of that, through the airport, I just saw a report today that this week, the air traffic security at the airports confiscated 74 firearms on carry-on luggage, all but 5 of which was loaded. In 1 week,
Wow.
and I went, gee, money, Christmas. If they caught, how many did they miss? That's what I, you go.
Yeah, how many did they miss? Yeah.
Really.
I mean, carry on luggage. You got a pistol in there loaded. I don't know. First of all, you've got to be mentally messed up to think you can get it through there. But
Makes you wonder
that
how many
was
people
scary.
actually do get through there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Technology is something, I don't know, most all of us are, well, Dave's still a little kid here, but most of the rest of us are old enough that I remember things that were just somebody's imagination and dream, and actually through the years seeing things come through. Buck Rogers and all the good stuff. I've see it actually take place and become reality. It's
Well, see, I'm from Pawnee, Oklahoma. That's my hometown, and that's where Chester Gould went to school and lived. And you remember in the 30s, he had Dick Tracy had the wristwatch on his wrist where he could talk. And you go, come on, no one can do that.
Oh yeah.
And we're there.
Yeah, how did he come up with that? I think his first cartoon was in 1932, I think, or 6, one of those.
Yeah. I guess I'm just toiling with the idea, with the motivational speaking, is that the technology is fantastic. We're jumping by leaps and bounds that would boggle the mind, and yet at the same time, we seem to be missing out completely on the ability to train and teach people how to be good people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Not to grow up in an environment where they want to take somebody's head off every time you turn around. Uh, and I'm thinking in the terms of motivational speakers that we, I just don't think that we have the access that we should have to this kind of information because it's out there. I mean, I found it today. And
But you
when you
have to
have,
be motivated. You have to be motivated to want to learn that
Yep.
to find
hmm
it. You know what I'm saying? It's
right,
not.
right.
I mean, someone's not going to just be stumbling through there that's got bad thoughts in their mind and say, "Oh my God, it changed my whole world." You know.
Yeah. Well,
What you need to do, Robert, is
some of
go
the,
ahead and download a collection of stuff that you can find out there, and then put it all together in one album and make it available to people.
well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm tinkering with the idea, and I'm trying to figure
But
out maybe
but
which the
wouldn't
best
you
way to
have
go with it.
Wouldn't you have some copyright problems with that kind of thing? I
Well,
mean, if you tried to
let
merchandise it,
let me give you an example. Let's take Les Brown just as an example. Uh, with the information, I know that I can get a hold of Les Brown. I can call him. I could actually talk to him. So let's say I talk to Les Brown and I share my ideas of what I want to do. And he says, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Well, cool. All I need is your authorization to allow me to share a few of your videos so that
hmm
I'm not in any copy law infringement. If I get that from him, then I would do the same thing that I do with any other business. I'd say, look, somewhere on the tail end or the front end, you put a little, a minute and a half shot about where you can be
hmm
contacted and where you can, if somebody needs a speaker, they can get a hold of you. And that way you get to share what he has to say. And if somebody just, Les Brown, I'll give you another example. Les Brown, when I first heard him, I said, oh, wow. His story, I heard his story about how he grew up. And when you hear the story, you say, man, this guy really jumped some hurdles to get where he's at. And so you're knowing that he jumped these hurdles, you have a tendency to listen to him because he'll talk about his downfalls and how many times he thought, oh, I could never be a speaker. I could never do this. I could never do that. And one day, like he says on this one tape, he said, I had to learn to quit saying, I never done that and change it with, I'm going to change it and do something. And so that's how I kind of got interested in Les Brown. And I think a lot of motivational speakers are exactly the same way. It's that catch-all, that one thing that somebody picks up on occasion and listens to and says, I can relate to that. And once you can relate to it, then you have a tendency to say, well, I'd like to hear a little bit more. And all I'm suggesting like you said, get download and get permission, let's say, to do certain things, is to bring up that information where you can get it out to people a little bit more
A
than
lot
it
of
is right
those
now.
people would.
well, you brought up a real problem. That you were not teaching people to be human beings,
Well,
and
no.
and then you bring this up. Now, here would be the way that I think could be very beneficial. If you could get that in very short bites, and then use it, provide it to the schools, where that they could use it in motivational training for 5 minutes a day, say,
Right.
uh, because these are the formative years. These are when they're going to be developing their thought processes and their decision-making processes. And no, a 30-minute speech wouldn't work.
No, but
A
5 to
15
15
minute attention
minutes
span
would
is the
work.
most anybody's got, and a 5 minute would probably be much, much better.
Right.
I don't know how you would put that together. I don't know how you would get it sold to the schools. I've got lots of books that I would like to have in every library in the schools, and I haven't figured that out yet. But it's something that has merit, and it could be the best educational day they've spent, the best
Right.
educational 5 minutes they've spent in their life. I don't know how to get that done, but you hit on a pretty interesting process.
Well, yeah, and the idea of the motivational speaker to me is, I mean, I have my own religion, I have my own beliefs, and I think we all do. But over the years, I've discovered for myself that what I believe, and I, I always say this, but it always sounds weird. What I believe is none of your business. You know what I'm saying? And what
I
you
got that.
believe, when you what you believe is none of my business. And so therefore, I know that religion in general, and I say that very generalized, can help a lot of people, if they're going to church or if they're going to synagogue or wherever they're going, get this education or material is great. But with motivational speakers, I'd say 90% has nothing to do with God. And yet at the same time, it does in a very roundabout way because they're talking about how to motivate, how to change your thinking, how to learn how to do things that you think you can't do, you know?
Yep.
Because so many people, they walk around with their head in the cloud thinking, oh, I can't do this. And I spend, yeah, you have no many hours with my grandkids. It's like over and over and over again. I get so tired of saying it, but it helps me, even if it don't help them. You can do it.
I don't know. I agree with you, Robert, because when I did Amway, it seemed virtually every speaker that I heard at Free Enterprise or at Family Reunion or wherever brought
Right.
God into the equation somehow. Um, I really,
Yeah, but Amway is a strange organization. I've been there.
yeah,
I don't.
a lot. That's
I thought I was at a
Yeah.
Nazi meeting. I think the first one I went to. I can't believe this.
No,
Sorry.
and I
You,
no, and I agree. Some companies are going to bring in God and whatever religion to some degree. All I'm suggesting is that with motivational speakers, it generally is not. And I did hear one speaker today that basically said, kind of like what I said, what I believe is not important. What you can learn is what is important. And if you can learn something here, then that's great. And if you can't, that's great too, because not all of us were meant to learn. It's like with this educational thing, and they want everybody to go to school and blah blah. And I come from an old school where some people, like I grew up in Iowa, back in Iowa on the farm. Some people don't need to go to school. What
I
they need
agree
to
with
do
that.
is learn. Need to learn is how to milk that cow, pluck them chickens, and whatever they do. And they're going to learn more and how to run that farm, and probably will be wealthy and a whole lot more,
There are
or a lot of us, because they have that stick to
there are
itness to keep
different
that farm
different kind of
going.
schools,
But if a
and not everybody
yeah,
understands
different
that.
kinds of
And
schools.
an Ivy League college is great, but it's not necessarily the kind
Well,
of school that everyone needs.
that's exactly right. And I don't
That's
know.
correct.
I've been away from the states so long now. I don't really understand what's going on, but the it seems to me like the trade school and the Votech school and those kind of things are being kind of
They are.
shortchanged. I mean, every,
Yes, they
plumbers.
are.
There's an old joke about the guy was changing a dishwasher for some woman, and she cut her hand, and he immediately got up and did all kinds of things, and pretty soon she was unbelievably satisfied and felt good and everything. She said, "How'd you know how to do all that?" He said, "I used to be a doctor." She said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I found out I could make more money being a plumber." So what, you know, uh, there, there's an oversell of this highly educated
Yep.
thing. I mean, there's a a jillion technical or skills. I had a guy here varnishing today, and I'm going. I used to do that. I'm too old and too tired and too lazy to do that now. And I go, this guy needed to learn some stuff that he should have known 10 years ago. It's the lack of skill is just scary in the United States.
Yep.
It's really scary. Back in the old days, everybody could fix their car because there was nothing to it. Now you got to be an expert in computers to know how to fix a car. I don't know. I just had a conversation with a guy that was a school teacher, and he said, my dad wanted me to be a plumber, and he says, I kind of wished I had him. He said I would have made more money, and he said it had just been an easier life than dealing with all these crazy. He taught in Newark, New Jersey, and some of the really rough schools. He said, not a fun place, not a fun time. And that's where you need motivational speakers, right there in those kind of school settings. I don't know how you get that program sold. I don't know how you get it sold. Now I can give you this. I was at my old hometown school, which is a student body of maybe in the high school, maybe 200. And in the morning, they have a session that comes over the loudspeaker in every class. Now, that would be a time when the perfect setup when you could have 5 minutes of motivational speaking. It'd go to everybody in school. And it'd probably be the best 5 minutes they've ever spent for the day.
Yep. And so the idea...
I'm just throwing out some things at you, Robert. I don't know how to get it done, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, and I'm tinkering with it, and the whole idea is that when it's generic, then I'm not trying to do this with the idea of being politically correct, because I think that's a bunch of bull. But still, the idea, if it's generic, then you as an individual, if you're going to a church or a synagogue or whatever you're going to, you have your rights to go do that. And I'm sure you're going to learn from where you're going. But motivational speakers, generally speaking, being generic, have a ton of information that can help somebody grow and believe in themselves and see the possibilities of what they can do and not walk around wondering how they're going to survive from one day to the next.
Right.
I had... When I was in Yarrington, I wasn't working there for a while, and my girlfriend just said, you're unbelievable. Because what I did was I went to the newspaper and I said, I understand you don't deliver papers out in this particular area. They said, no, we don't. It's too far out. I said, well, if I understand it, I can come in and buy the papers and go sell them to the customers, right? Oh, yeah, you can do that. So we discussed, well, how much will I pay and how much should I charge and blah, blah, blah. So I went in there the first day and bought 5 papers and went out and delivered 5 papers to 5 people. Now, in the next 6 months, I created my own income and I didn't need a job because I had that believability. If I can't get a job, I'll make a job.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. And I went out and I started delivering papers. Within a year, hell, I was making $600-700 a month. And that wasn't bad for just a few hours a day,
Yeah.
And so that's why I like motivational. It's the believability. It's getting people to understand that they can do it. But the hard part is making them believe in their own mind that it's possible. Because if it's possible, you can do it.
That's true.
But you have to believe it's possible. It's just like what we're doing. I know it's going to be successful because I believe it's possible. Well, believing it's possible is only the first step. When I'm not on a meeting like, with you guys and everything, I'm out there beating those bushes. I'm hitting those buttons. I'm doing the things that make it possible.
Like
And
one thing I've said in the past, Zig has said, you have to have the proper mindset before you can do, and you have to do before you can have.
that's right.
You don't get the reward until you become something that you need to become something in order to do the job, and then you have to do the job in order to have what you want in life.
Right. And I think what I'm trying to do is take it one step down below that, where I can say to somebody, somehow, because I'll hear it, well, I don't believe I can do that. My first question usually is, why? Why don't you believe you can do that? Well, I've never done it. Well, have you ever tried? Well, no. Well, how do you know you can't do it if you've never tried? Somehow we got to get down to that degree where we build up the believability, because once you have the believability, then that is the next step to what Reverend Dave said in reference to Zig Ziglar. But you got to get that believability. I think the best one I ever heard years and years ago, and I was selling insurance, so we had this special meeting, and they had a guest speaker there, and I can't remember what his name was, but he said something that stuck in my mind all these years. He said, change is not something that you can do. Change is not something that you can perfect. Change, in one degree or another, may not even have anything to do with believability. What change has to do is getting it under your skin. When you get change under your skin, it gets in your system, you're going to change.
Yep.
That's interesting.
No, keep going.
Get off my soapbox.
Keep going. I'm glad to hear someone else
Okay.
besides me doing on the
Well,
soapbox tonight. So
The-
it's refreshing.
Well, yeah, and I think it's just because I've been listening to a lot of these things, and this one about Brian David Johnson with all the futuristic things that are coming just kind of blew me away. But yeah, I'm tinkering with this idea because it's, how should I say this without offending anybody? I think that a lot of churches in the last 20 or 30 years have missed the boat. 30 years ago, they had an opportunity to really get down dirty and help a lot of people. But somewhere along the way, they missed it. And I don't know where they missed it, but they missed it. You know what I'm saying? Because people they couldn't get it. And in order to get it, you have to have that believability. You have to be able to believe. Now, if you run into people, and I do on many occasions, oh, I don't believe in this. Oh, I don't believe in that. Why the hell should I believe in this? And you're talking about the government. I don't believe in the government. They're all crooked. Well, that might be true, but you got to believe in something. You got to believe that, like with our government, you got to learn to believe that maybe there are a few people out there that are as crooked as a stick. But you know what? There might be a whole lot of them out there that are busting their butts every day trying to do it right. And they can't because they got pressure here and pressure there, and they're forced into this, forced into that. We don't know all the backroom answers to what's going on.
I
No,
used
either.
to say,
Has
Robert,
some believability.
everybody,
Huh?
everybody, like I used to say, everybody needs something to believe in. I believe I'll have another drink.
Let's don't go down that path. You're doing so good.
That's
Let's
been
don't go
9 and a
down that
half months
path.
now, my friend.
Yeah, let's not go to. I'll tell you what, Reverend Dave, the one thing to help me more than anything ever with my drinking problem, and I've been sober now going on 35 years,
Wow.
was the day that somebody told me it was this guy that only had about 6 months of sobriety, but he rattled my cage because he said, "I'm never going to stop drinking. Never. I'm just not going to do it." And I'm thinking, okay, if that's the way you feel, I can understand where you're coming from. And then he turned right around and looked me right straight in the eyes, but he said, "I'm not going to drink today."
Well, that's what I was telling my friend yesterday. I said, I'm thinking about having a drink tomorrow. He said, tomorrow? I said, yeah.
Good.
He says, tomorrow never comes. Right.
That's right.
Tomorrow
That's
never
right.
comes. It's always today.
That's right. And if I don't drink today, and I know for
not.
yeah, so I know for a fact that what that guy said to me that particular time, I had let's see, I think I had about 2.5 years of sobriety when I ran into this guy, and I was supposed to be trying to help him, and I think he ended up helping me more than I helped him. But it stuck with me. We had a saying in AA. Nobody knows who God is, but if you go to a meeting and somebody in the room puts up their hand to speak, and then they start talking about their life or something or whatever it is, and suddenly you're sitting over here, you don't know that person from Adam, and you start getting chills down your back. You start feeling kind of weird, and you suddenly realize that person indirectly is talking right to you. He ain't talking to nobody else in that room. He's talking to you. And I believe that's how God works. God is not some mysterious thing that's going to speak into my ear out of nowhere. It's the people I know. Somebody somewhere might say something that they think is totally ridiculous. And yet it'll hit me right there.
That's the
And I'll
same
grab
thing
it.
could be said for the
And I'll hold
motivational
on to
speakers
it.
you was talking about. They may be talking to an audience of 10,000, but you sitting in there and all of a sudden something they said, something connects, and you say, well, he was talking to me, so.
Yeah, he wasn't talking to nobody else.
I've been in them audiences
Yeah,
of 10,000 before and
Go ahead.
had that same feeling, well, he's talking to me. He's telling me what I need to know to turn my life around and make it, successful. Aha! Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we call that an aha moment, right, Mike?
Absolutely.
Aha! Yay! My aha moment is tinkering. I'm not sure where I'm going with my tinker, but I'm tinkering. Maybe I'll figure something out in the next few days. Or maybe it'll be a few months. I don't know. But I'm tinkering with an idea. I hope it. When you get ideas like that,
Well, that's true.
thing
I've
of all,
had
I'm
them
gonna go to
nights
bed
too.
tonight and I won't be able to sleep. Now I wake up tired. Because it just once it gets in there, it just goes round and round and round and round. You can't shut it off.
For a living, I used to work on two-way radios and things like that, and I had one radio that I was, and this is a long time ago, but I had one radio that I had worked on all day long, and for the life of me couldn't make it work, and didn't know why I couldn't make it work. But I went to bed that night thinking about that, and in the middle of the night, I just clear as a bell, I could see what I needed to do to make it work. I got up the next morning, went straight to it, did what I saw in the middle of the night, and lo and behold, it worked. So, it's, you know, yep.
Yep. Yep. It's it's miraculous. It's a miracle in the making, and with the technology opening up, that guy that I guess it was about a year ago that volunteered to have his brain connected to a computer, and I'm thinking, is
Maybe
this
he was
guy
trying to
lost
add
his
more to
mind?
it.
Well, but think of this. What he was doing may not benefit him at all. We won't never know. But from what
Good.
they learn from it, could benefit the whole world. You just don't know. Uh, so yeah, he's hooked up to a computer, and of course I haven't heard anything about it since, because I always have that feeling if I don't hear nothing, the government stepped in, shut the doors, and said you ain't gonna hear no more.
That might happen sometimes too. That might happen sometimes too.
Huh? Yeah.
Woof, woof. Is that Rascal? Oh, that's somebody else's.
Nope, that's somebody else's dog.
Oh,
Nope,
okay.
that's Misty upstairs.
Oh,
Okay.
My sister just got home. And
Must
they
be
always
time to
get
get
fed
fed.
because
She's
they
home,
get
huh?
fed whenever she gets home. Well, they get fed at 4:30, but they also get fed whenever my sister comes home.
Oh yeah.
Feeding time is always a joyous time for
There's
the
Rascal.
dogs. Hi, Rascal.
hey, there you go. Get up there and say hi to everybody.
Hi,
Stick your tongue out.
Rascal.
Who are they?
Who are those guys?
Rascal, tell your dad to comb you. Your hair's sticking out.
Oh, he's an old rag muffin. You'd never believe this dog is a poodle.
No, I wouldn't.
When you guys are talking about dogs, it reminds me yesterday I just saw this.
Okay, you got to say hi.
This guy had this cow dog. I never saw a dog work like that in my life. He loaded probably 10 head of cattle, dang near it in an open field in a trailer. I just couldn't believe it. I've loaded probably 3,000 or 4,000 head of cattle in my life. I've never seen anything. I just couldn't believe it. The dang dog was 14 times smarter than any man I've ever seen. I just could not believe what that dog did. I mean, it boggled my mind because, when you load cattle, you get them in a tight spot and they've got no place to go with trade. This guy, he was out in the field. I couldn't believe it. I just absolutely could not believe what that dog could do. It's on, I posted it on my site. I don't know.
You want to go outside?
Oh, okay. The most amazing thing I've ever seen an animal do. It really, I just couldn't believe it. And the guy would say right, and the doggone dog would go right as soon as it came out of the end of his mouth. He'd say left, he'd say stop, he'd say back. And the dog the dog knew every word he said. It was I would have said, I watched it probably 14 times. I said, I can't believe I'm seeing this. It's really fascinating.
No.
Sorry to interrupt that. You just brought up dogs and
that was interesting. Looked like Rascal didn't really want to go out, did he?
He just wants attention. He's being a little shithead.
Well, guys,
that's all right.
You guys take care. Have a good day, good week. Everything goes well for you.
Certainly glad you come in here and joined us tonight. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your input. Always.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tate.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Ciao.
All right, Fred.
Reverend Dave, you got anything to say before we get into Robert's supper time?
No, I was just going to say that we just need to keep on keeping on, and yes, we're not having a tremendous amount of people showing up for the calls, but let's keep inviting people, and let's keep positive, and I think we are. I think we're glad for what we're learning. Um, Robert, you said something about, and Mike both about just relaxing and going to sleep and the answer coming to you in the middle of the night or whenever. Well,
Yeah.
I call that the Holy Spirit of God because my grandma used to consult a Ouija board before she was saved. And she would say, look for such and such an item in this place. And the Ouija board would always tell her where it was. And I kept trying to explain to the person, demons know where everything is. And so that's what she was channeling was the demons. But God also knows where everything is. And that's why what I'm confounded when I'm looking for an answer, when I'm looking for something to say, when I'm looking for a certain object that I've missed, I'll just relax. I'll set my mind at ease. And maybe it's my subconscious and maybe it's God. I believe it's God myself. But within an instant, I'll find out, I'll know, okay, it's over there in a certain spot, and it's always there.
Yep.
And I remember one time, I was sharing this with a friend of mine the other day, where I uh, I was at a nursing home with a friend of mine, my friend Bill, and we were with his mother, and she was unsaved. And suddenly, I felt the Spirit of God saying, "Witness to her." And me, being the obedient servant that I was, I started making excuses, like we all do, right? I started saying, "Well, God, I can't really witness to her because I didn't bring my Bible with me." He says, "You have a Bible with you?" I said, "I do." He said, "Great." I said, "Where is it?" He says, "Look in your back right pocket." I felt in my back right pocket, and there's a whole box. There's a whole bunch of gospel tracts. And I says, "Okay, Lord, you told me that's how I do it." So I said, "Grace, do you know how to get to heaven from Ohio?" Because that's what the tract said. She goes, "No, you want to tell me?" And so I led her to the Lord. And so God has the wisdom of the ages in his disposal. And I mean, when we make excuses, God says, I'll make a way. And so I really believe that with all my heart that God does direct my footsteps, that directs each of our footsteps, and that all we need to do is be cognizant of when He talks through the Spirit to us or through His Word. I found out people say, well, God talks to us through His Word. He doesn't talk to us in an audible voice. I told them that's not true. The Spirit talks to me all the time, and I hear an audible voice. Not in my ears, but in my head. And it just goes to show you what a powerful God He is. Because
Yep.
and he'll talk through other people, like you said, Robert. That he'll talk through other people where you'll get that aha moment where you hear something. That's me. That was meant for me.
Yep.
So that's why I pray for each of you every day, and why I trust God to have an aha moment. Like I had a couple of them today, listening to you, Robert, listening to you, Mike, and listening
Yep.
to Fred. I mean, I really did. I mean, I expect to hear something that's going to make my life better each time we communicate with each other. And I think if you go into these calls with the expectation that something's going to be said or done that's going to make your life better, I think we will have the right attitude and be able to accomplish a
I
lot more in
agree.
our life.
I totally
With
agree
that,
with
I
you.
have to
All right.
go, so I'm going to go. I have
All right.
another
It's
call
good to
in
hear.
10
Good to
minutes,
hear
so
you tonight
I'll
too.
talk to you guys later.
And
All right.
and
God
I
bless.
am
Glad you were
recording it.
here.
Yes.
Did you record this, Mike?
We'll have it posted
Okay, good.
sometime
I'll listen to
tonight.
it later.
Uh, Probably in the chat room, but yeah, I will have it there.
Very good. Thank you.
God bless you too.
All right.
Cool.
God bless,
Okay.
guys.
Robert.
All right. God bless.
Robert. My automation that I was
Yes.
talking about the other day is working. It's working great for me.
Yeah.
And I would like to share it with you in
Okay.
a time when we could get together and I could record the conversation to use that as a training tool, or whatever. So
Okay.
it's not
How
going to be a
about
good day for me at all.
Wednesday?
So
Tomorrow I got to go to Elko, so I don't get back to really late. Yeah, and not for me either.
4
But how
o'clock
about
your time.
Thursday
That's
around
about
4
7
o'clock
o'clock
your
my time.
time? Or 4 o'clock my time? 4 o'clock my time.
We should be home.
That'd be what?
That'll be good. We're talking about Thursday. That good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Thursday I'd like to get together with you on Skype, and
Yeah.
then I can go through
Thursday.
and explain exactly
And I could.
what it is, how I put it together, and how it works, and record that, and then we will have a tool that we can use to perhaps help some other people too. So.
Okay, I'm all for that. That sounds like a great idea.
All right.
Okay, I'm all for that because that sounds like a great idea. Because
Yeah.
I know that it's kind of like being on the fringes, you know. If you've ever had that feeling, and I'm sure you have, because I've had it in the past.
Yep.
How do I say it? Things are getting ready to break loose. Now, I did remember one time hearing a person once say, it's all about believability. And if you believe it's going to break, sometimes you don't know where it's going to break. You don't know how it's going to break. You may not even be sure what it is you're going to do to make it break. But if it's going to break, the doors of opportunity and the know-how will open up to you. And I believe that 100%.
Anyway, we'll plan on that 7 o'clock my time, 4 o'clock your time Thursday, and we'll get together here on Skype because that's a real easy way for me to record what I do. I can share my screen with you, and then we can record. I can record it at the time, and then perhaps we can generate a useful tool that we can all have to use that way. So.
Okay, that sounds like a winner. Thursday. Would 4:30 by any chance be a little bit better for you, or no?
Okay, if it's better for you.
Or would 4 o'clock be?
All right.
Well, I'm not sure, but I think 4 o'clock will probably work out just great. So.
Okay.
And now I'll just plan on calling you on Skype Thursday at 7 o'clock your time, and we'll get together and go over what it is you want to go over.
We'll get together and talk to you then.
Okay?
All right. Have a great night.
All right, Michael.
All right. Sounds
I see
great.
the old clock's ticking, and I'm going to have a good night.
Talk to you later. God bless.
All right, you take care. All right, God bless.